You ever notice how people cling to things, words, promises, little scraps of hope, like they're treasures? They hold them so tight, as if keeping them will make them real, make them permanent. But here's the thing, permanence is a lie. Everything you clutch eventually rots in your hands. That's why what I'm about to tell you, you won't keep it. You can't. You'll listen, and then you'll erase it, wipe it clean, as if it was never there. Because deep down, you know some truths are too heavy to carry. Some truths are like a shard of glass in your pocket. At first, you don't notice it. It's small, hidden, almost harmless. But the longer you keep it, the deeper it cuts. Every time you reach into that pocket, you feel it slice through you, a reminder that it's still there, waiting to bleed you dry. People think truth is this beautiful thing, a shining little jewel you're supposed to treasure. They dress it up in flowery words, wrap it in ribbons, and hold it close like it's going to save them. But the truth, the real truth, it's ugly, it's sharp. It doesn't care about your feelings, your plans, or your pretty little dreams. It sits there heavy and cold, daring you to carry it around as if it won't eventually crush you. You see, once you know something, you can't unknow it. It worms its way into your mind, twisting everything you thought you understood. Suddenly, the world doesn't look the same anymore. That friend you trusted, you see the cracks. That hope you clung to, you notice the lies underneath it. And you try to act like you can handle it, like you're strong enough to live with it. But it's not strength keeping you together. It's denial. And denial, well, it doesn't last forever. Sooner or later, the truth starts knocking louder, until you can't pretend you don't hear it anymore. Most people, when they stumble on something they weren't supposed to know, they hold on to it. They think it gives them power. Like, now I know. Now I'm ahead of the game. But it's a trick. The more you grip it, the more it owns you. It changes you bit by bit, like a poison that works slow. So you don't notice until it's already deep in your veins. And when it's in there, there's no flushing it out. The damage is done. That's why some truths are better off left to die the second they're born. You hear them, you feel them burn, and then you let them vanish before they have the chance to set up camp in your skull. But people are collectors by nature. They can't help it. They hoard moments, words, glances, like they're building some museum in their head. And the sad part is, the heavier the truth, the more they want to keep it. Because they think pain means depth. That suffering means they've learned something important. But not every lesson is worth remembering. Not every scar is worth showing off. Some cuts should heal without a trace, without a story to tell at parties. Because the moment you start telling the story, you're feeding the memory, keeping it alive, letting it breathe in you until it becomes a part of who you are. And then you're not you anymore. You're just the keeper of something that should have died the moment it touched your ears. That's the thing. Truth isn't always a gift. Sometimes it's a curse wrapped in the illusion of clarity. You think you've been given light, but really, it's just a spotlight showing you the shadows you were better off ignoring. And once you've seen those shadows, they're yours forever. They follow you. They stalk you. They smile when you're alone at night. They don't let go, unless you do. Unless you make the choice to treat that truth like a dream you can't quite remember in the morning. You wake up, you feel the echo of it, but you don't go chasing it. You let it slip away into the fog. But letting go, that's the hard part, isn't it? People want to keep touching the wound, keep checking if it still hurts. And every time they do, it bleeds a little more. They don't understand that healing means leaving it alone, deleting it, burning the evidence in their mind before it has the chance to haunt them. Because once it becomes a ghost, it's already too late. And ghosts, they're the worst kind of company. They don't knock. They don't leave. And they love the sound of their own voice. That's why some truths are meant to be heard, not kept. They're meant to be like smoke. Breathe it in for a moment, then let it drift out, disappearing into nothing before it poisons you from the inside out. Memory can be a prison if you don't let go. Not the kind with steel bars and guards watching your every move. No, this prison is much quieter, much cleaner. It's inside your head, decorated with little snapshots of moments you can't escape. And the worst part, you built it yourself. Every brick is a thought you couldn't let go of. Every lock is a feeling you kept replaying. And every chain is a what if you refuse to cut loose. People don't even realize they're serving a sentence in there. They call it nostalgia. They call it reflection. They call it wisdom. but you and I both know what it really is. It's solitary confinement dressed up like a warm blanket. See, memories don't just sit there politely. They move, they crawl, they grow teeth. A happy one, sure, maybe it stays sweet for a while, but give it enough time and it starts to rot. A sad one, oh, those never rot. They sharpen. They get more vivid, more colorful, like they feed on your attention. You replay them so much they stop being the truth and start becoming the version you've carved in your mind, polished until it gleams with a pain that feels almost addictive. You tell yourself you're just remembering, but really, you're feeding the beast that keeps you locked in your cell. It's funny. People think forgetting is weakness. Like letting go means you didn't care enough. They hold their memories close, thinking they're protecting something precious. But what they're really protecting is their own jailer. Because every time you keep a memory that's killing you, you're giving it permission to stay. You're telling it, go ahead. Make yourself comfortable. Move in. Rearrange the furniture in my head. And it does. And once it's settled, it doesn't matter if you're laughing at a joke or staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m. It's always there, whispering through the cracks, reminding you you're not free. Some people decorate their cells. They tell stories about the good old days. Hang little paintings in their minds of the moments that hurt them the most, and convince themselves it's art. They wear their pain like a medal, like surviving it made them stronger. Maybe it did. But being stronger doesn't mean you have to keep dragging the weight with you. Strength is knowing when to set it down, when to stop carrying the chains you've been polishing for years. But most people, they don't drop them. They tighten their grip. They confuse heaviness with importance, and that's the trap. Memory convinces you it's your identity. That without these moments, these images, these mistakes and triumphs, you're nothing. But that's a lie. You are not the prison you built. You are not the chains you've been dragging. You are the one holding the key. And every second, you keep it in your pocket instead of using it. You're choosing to stay locked up. Some don't use it because they're afraid of the outside, afraid of the empty space where the walls used to be. They'd rather be trapped in something familiar than walk into the unknown without their old ghosts for company. But the thing about prisons is they're not always forced on you. Sometimes you step inside willingly. You close the door yourself because you think you deserve to be in there. You think, this is where I belong. I made mistakes, I hurt people, I failed. And maybe you did, but serving a life sentence for it. That's just another way to keep punishing yourself long after the verdict. The bars don't keep you in, you do. And as long as you keep replaying the same reel of images over and over, the door stays shut. The cruel trick is you can walk out any time. All it takes is letting go. And letting go isn't forgetting in the sense of erasing. It's refusing to let the memory dictate your steps. It's saying, you happened, but you don't get to drive anymore. But that's hard for most people because they've gotten used to the chains. They've learned to sleep with their wrists bound, to walk with the weight around their ankles. They don't even notice it anymore until someone points out they could be free. And then the fear kicks in. Because if you step outside those walls, what's left? Who are you without your prison? The truth is, maybe you're no one. Maybe you have to figure it out from scratch. But that's the point. That's the beauty of walking out. You get to start building something new instead of staring at the same four walls in your head for the rest of your life. Memory can be a teacher, but it can also be a warden. And you can't serve both forever. At some point, you've got to choose who's really in charge. And if you don't, well, you already know where you'll end up, pacing the same cell, tracing the same cracks in the wall, convincing yourself it's home when it's really just the place you've been keeping yourself all along erasing can be more powerful than holding on. People don't like that idea. They're taught from the start that you've got to keep things, moments, lessons, proof of what you've been through, like little trophies on a dusty shelf in your mind. Don't forget where you came from, they say. Every scar tells a story, and maybe that works for fairy tales. But in the real world, some stories aren't worth retelling. Some scars aren't badges, they're chains. And every time you run your fingers over them, you're just reminding yourself, that you're still tethered to something that's already dead. See, the human mind loves to hoard. It stores words you should have never heard, faces you wish you'd never seen, nights you can't take back. It keeps them in perfect little boxes, so it can drag them out later and watch you squirm. You think you're in control, deciding when to open the box, but you're not. The memory decides. It knocks when you're alone, when you're tired, when you're just about to forget. And the moment you let it in, it starts rearranging your thoughts, repainting the walls of your head in its own colors. That's the problem with holding on. You're giving the past the keys to your house and telling it to make itself comfortable, erasing. That's different. Erasing isn't pretending it never happened. It's making the decision that whatever it was, it doesn't get to stay in your mental collection. It's you grabbing that box, walking to the edge of your mind and tossing it into the fire before it has the chance to seep into everything else. And yes, that sounds violent, maybe even reckless. But sometimes violence is the only language the past understands. Sometimes the only way to stop something from haunting you is to burn the bridge. It keeps crossing to get to you. People think holding on makes them wise. Look, I've been through so much. They say, like pain is a trophy you're supposed to show off. But wisdom isn't about how much you've carried. It's about knowing what to drop. A thief who keeps every stolen thing eventually gets caught because the weight slows them down. Same with memories. Keep too many, and sooner or later, you're stuck. You can't move forward because every step drags the ghosts with you. But erase the ones that don't serve you, and suddenly you're lighter. You move faster. You can see more clearly without the fog of old shadows. Of course, erasing isn't easy. Your mind will fight it. It'll tell you that forgetting means weakness, that you're dishonoring yourself by letting something fade. That's just another trick. The mind hates empty space. It will cling to anything, even pain, just to avoid silence. But silence is where you can finally breathe without the weight of yesterday pressing on your lungs. That's why erasing is power. It's reclaiming space. It's saying, this part of me isn't yours anymore. And in that moment, you take back control of something you didn't even realize you'd lost. And let's be honest, some things you hold onto aren't even real anymore. Memories get distorted. They bend, twist, and stretch until they barely resemble what actually happened. But the emotions stay. We raw and sharp, stabbing you with a blade that doesn't even exist anymore. Erasing those illusions isn't losing. It's breaking free from a lie you've been feeding for years. It's calling your own bluff. And once you do, you realize most of the weight you've been carrying was just smoke and mirrors anyway. The real danger of holding on is that it becomes who you are. You start introducing yourself by your pain, measuring your worth in scars, and before you know it, you're not a person anymore. You're a museum curator for a collection no one else cares about. You stand there showing people the exhibits, explaining each one like it's proof you've lived. But living isn't the same as dragging the past behind you like a corpse on a leash. Sometimes living means cutting the rope, letting the body fall, and walking away without looking back. That's the secret no one likes to admit. Erasing can make you stronger than surviving ever will. Surviving means you made it through. Erasing means you made it through and decided it doesn't get to touch you anymore. It means you refused to let the past write your present. You didn't just escape. You shut the door, turned the key, and threw it into the sea. And now there's nothing left for it to find. Nothing left for it to feed on. Just you, standing in the space it used to fill. Breathing in the quiet, feeling the weight lift until you almost forget what it felt like to carry it in the first place. Not everything valuable needs to be permanent. That's the trap they set for you early on. This idea that if something's worth having, it's